What is going on, Birdland? Stephen Heckman here for the Final Strike podcast, brought to you by the Baltimore Battery, and we're going to jump right into things as the Orioles are off today on Thursday, May the 1st. Happy May Day to everybody. Orioles end the month with a series victory over the Yankees, taking 2 of 3, and actually making things a lot easier for them to make up ground in the AL East, as they now sit 5.5 games back of the New York Yankees in first place, which, being last place in that division and only being 5.5 games back, is definitely saying something, especially with how we played through the first 30 games of the season. Orioles currently are 12-18. They are in last place in the division, unfortunately, but if things continue the way that we played in this series, which we had in the 2 victories, we had an extreme amount of passion, fire, fight, and it was really interesting to see the pitchers, especially when they got a big out, the passion that was flowing through them. Brian Baker with a huge strikeout the other night, end an inning, and fist pumped, screaming, as he walked off the mound. Felix, Bautista, both his saves, you could see the excitement and how excited he was to be able to do what he's there to do, close the games out, and same for the Orioles. Be the person that is willing to take that fight and close it out. By the way, Felix Bautista is 5 for 5 on save opportunities this year. And these past 2 save opportunities he looked really good. Like, fastball is touching 99 again, which is great. As everybody knows, he was hitting 101, 102 before the Tommy John surgery. So the fact that he's hitting 99 already is a very good sign, which means that he's pretty close to being back to the guy who dominated the closer role in 2023. That would be a big boost for us. Granted, through 30 games to only have 5 saves is definitely not something you like, but it's a step in the direction, and that's what we want. You got Tamayuki Sagano, pitching his heart out, easily becoming the ace of the staff right now. Went out there and against the Yankees through 5 shutout innings, struck out 8, season and MLB career high, showing that he is capable of being a strikeout pitcher when necessary. That splitter he had going the other night was disgusting. I mean, the Yankees had no answer for it. And it did him well. Actually, it was a huge victory for the Orioles. 4-3 victory, 1-run game against the Bronx Bombers, who are leading your division as well as your AL East rivals. Yes, that was a huge game. Our bullpen stepped up huge in games 1 and 3. I don't even want to discuss game 2 because game 2 disgusted me to the point I actually had to turn it off. I'm not going to lie, because at that point, all I kept thinking about was the Orioles winning 9-5 against the Cincinnati Reds, and then on Easter Sunday dropping the game 24-2. That's all that kept coming through my mind as I was watching that loss on Tuesday, which ended up being a 13-3 debacle. I mean, Kyle Gibson is supposed to, help eat some innings and, bring a little bit of stability back to the rotation right now. Goes out there and in 3 2/3 innings gives up 5 home runs. The Yankees, for the second time this season, which is actually an MLB record, opened the game with back-to-back home runs. That's insane. That is actually something insane. It's never been done in MLB history. So kudos to them. Hate that it happened to us, but I digress. We ended up taking the series, which was good. To actually come back after the 13-3 loss and play the game we played after that and win 5-4. There was a ton of excitement, ton of passion, fire, gumption, energy, something that had not been seen from the Orioles in the first 30 games of this season. So the fact that we're actually starting to show that might be a sign that things might be turning the corner. Now, does it forgive the 12-18 start? No, it doesn't. Because at any given moment, who's to say we don't revert back to that? Hopefully we don't. But if we can move forward the way that we took on the Yankees this series, I think good things are in the future. Yes, we still have a pitching staff that is kind of, I want to call it a octopus right now because you have 8 arms going in different directions. But I think Sagano is easily the ace of the staff. He's 3-1 through 5 games, 6 games. I'm sorry, 3-1 through 6 games. He has a 3 ERA. He's pitched a total of 33 innings, and he's gotten better every start out. Like previous start before the Yankees, he had back-to-back outings of 7 innings. He still has yet to give up more than 3 runs this season in any game, knock on wood. And he's pitched into the 5th inning in every game he's pitched. Even the first one when he left with cramps in his hand, he still got credit for 4 2/3 innings. So Sagano is being everything that Mike Elias envisioned him to be when he brought him over here. And it's funny because on social media, while we were progressing through the ups and downs of the first part of the season, a lot of people were actually complaining about Sagano along with Charlie Morton. They're on completely different level planes. So you got Sagano up here, you got Morton here. Morton has finally been demoted to the bullpen. It is official, not official. But a point I'm getting at is Sagano's 35. Yes, he pitched 14 years in the Nippon Professional League and was one of the most dominant pitchers over there. He won what is equivalent to 3 Cy Young Awards over there. And if I remember correctly, he either won 1 or 2 MVPs or what the equivalency of an MVP is over there. The guy's best season actually came last year, age 34. So that should tell you something. If his best season came at 34 and yet he still won 3 Cy Young Awards before that, we might just be getting the best of this guy right now. He has shown he is a guy capable of getting outs, letting the defense do their job. But then against the Yankees, he also showed that he could be a strikeout pitcher when need be. Those are important. When you have a pitcher who can adjust and adapt based off the lineup or the situation that you're in, that's huge. That is the makings of what an ace pitcher is supposed to do. He's supposed to be the guy who halts the losses, and he has. He's 3-1. He has pitched really well in every game he's played. It's easily he could have a better record. We blew one game that he actually had pitched 7 innings in. The first game he left with cramps and still pitched pretty decent. So, who's to say what would have happened if he was able to complete, 5 innings in that game? He could easily be 4-1 right now. But we've got to figure something out. Cade Povich, I don't want to say he's a mystery, but he's not complete. He is learning on the fly. I mean, he's pitched, 26 major league games now? And, he's had 2 really bad games, and then he's had the rest of them been so-so, and he's had a really good game too. So, the potential and the talent's there. He's learning basically on the fly, though. Yes, he dominated AAA pitching last year, but AAA pitching, you can get away with just throwing your fastball. You start throwing junk pitches in there and everything like that, you're going to throw the batters off. And that's one of the things why you see a lot of batters come up to the major leagues. And at first, they'll take the majors by storm. And then after, a month or 2 into their career, you'll start seeing pitchers adapt and adjust how they pitch to them in different ways because they're learning that they can't hit this pitch or they can't, go hard with this pitch because it's inside. You push them inside, they can't, that jams them, puts them on the fist. A lot of things go into play. We had, Gunnar Henderson, when he first came up, once they figured out he couldn't hit left-handed pitchers, you just kept throwing left-handed pitchers at him. Get him out of the lineup. Then when he started hitting left-handed pitchers, then it was breaking balls. Colton Cowser had the same problem, breaking balls and changeups. So when the major league pitchers discover the weakness of a batter, they're going to utilize that until the batter gets it right. And it's the truth. That's all they're going to do is you're going to keep pitching and pitching and pitching the same pitches until the batter figures out how to get it. Every now and then they'll try to slip a different pitch by him, and hopefully the batter's good enough that they'll adjust and do something with it. But most of the time they're not expecting it because they know that the pitchers know what they can and can't hit, and that's what they're going to utilize against him. It's the same difference like when they used to do the shifts. When Chris Davis used to come up to bat and you'd have the third baseman basically at the shortstop, and then your second and shortstop over here with the first baseman. Your second baseman was basically an outfielder, and you had the whole right side of the infield wide open. If Chris Davis ever learned how to bunt, he could have just kept bunting until they picked up that and then started pitching him normal again, but they didn't. Unfortunately, the shift ruined a lot of players' careers. And, Chris Davis is one of them. The shift actually hurt him more than anybody that I can think of. There's another player. I can't think of his name. He used to be a Cincinnati Reds outfielder and then went to the Yankees. But he basically retired because of the shift. It basically sapped his pull hitting ability, because when you have four people over on the same side you're hitting to, you're going to be hard-pressed to find a hole. The bullpen in this series actually looked the best it's looked all season, outside of Game 2. Game 2 was just a disaster all the way around. I know I can talk about it, but we've talked enough about what the Orioles' problems were leading into this series. I don't think we need to review them again. We know what they were. All right. It was nice to hear that Cedric Mullins called a hitters-only meeting before the game on Monday, and we went out and won. It was nice to hear that Ryan O'Hearn, Gunnar Henderson, and Adley Rutschman actually were part of the people who talked, and that they were able to all put everything out in the air so everybody could hear what's going on. If that is a turning point, it would be great. We will find out and we will see. But I can tell you one thing, the energy that was to put out in the two victories was better than it's been all season. Even in the loss, the horrible loss, there was still some hustle on ground balls, players still hustling to make plays and everything like that. So, as bad as the 13-3 loss was, it wasn't as horrible as it was when the 24-2 loss happened. So there is some positive to be taken out of that. This whole series against the Yankees, there was a lot of positives. I think the Detroit series was kind of like a slap in the face, telling them to wake up, because to get swept by a team that there was at least 2 games we could have won. The game against Tarek Skubal, I kind of did not expect to win. And he dominated that game, but Casey Mize, there's no reason we couldn't have beaten Casey Mize. And I can't think off the top of my head the guy who pitched after. There's no reason we couldn't win that game. But I think it was starting to sink in. The Tigers, who have young talent, just like the Baltimore Orioles, showed the Orioles up. And I think a lot of these players, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Jordan Westburg before he went on the IL, Heston Kjerstad, I think those players actually took that to heart, that they were further ahead than the Tigers were the last 2 years, and now the Tigers are making the Orioles look like they were before 2022. And, it's sad to say at one point during this stretch this season, and I know we're only 30 games in, so there's still a lot of baseball left to play. But at one point, there was actually comparisons between the 2017 team and the team this year. And the 2017 team, if Birdland remembers, is the year we only won 47 games and basically blew up the entire squad. Manny Machado was traded, Zach Britton was traded, Jonathan Scope was traded. We tried to trade Adam Jones. We basically just got rid of everybody. Zach Britton, it was all gone. We traded everybody. And, Buck Showalter wasn't coming back. We knew Dan Duquette, once his contract was up, was not coming back. The players knew it. And you could tell by the passion that they put out on the field that they just didn't care, because they knew they weren't going to be there next year. They didn't know where they were going to be playing by the end of the season. And that's honestly a lot of the comparisons that I got, and even said myself, going through these first 30 games of the season. So I'm hoping that this Yankee series is a premonition of what is to come instead of just a blip on the radar. As is right now, we're 2-6-2 through the first 10 series of the season. To be 12-18 and actually only 5.5 games back in the AL East actually says a lot. everybody's struggling. We could easily just throw our hands up and say it's injuries. We added Jordan Westberg and Gary Sanchez to the IL this week, giving us 13 players off our 40-man roster on the IL. 13 players. What's bad about that is you have to replace those 13 players with other people. So you're taking from your minor league teams. And if you look through the Orioles organization, the minor league teams are struggling pretty bad too. The Norfolk Tides are basically a mirror of what the Orioles were for the first half of the season, almost down to the record. I mean, it was bad enough last week that the highlight of the week for the pitchers for the Norfolk Tides was Taran Vavra pitching an inning. He threw 7 pitches, 4 of them strikes, and pitched an inning without giving up a run. And it was basically the highlight of a 6-game series for the Tides, pitching-wise. That's how bad it's gotten there. Now, I know everybody's going to say that, it's just proving Michael Elias can't develop pitching, but it's not that. Justin Armbruster just had surgery on his right lat. He's pretty much done for the year. Chase McDermott, been out most of the season with a lat. He just started doing his rehab assignment. Let's see. You have Rogers. He had the right knee subluxation. He just started his rehab. So, you start going through and you start looking at these injuries, and pitcher after pitcher after pitcher after pitcher, there's an injury. And what's funny is most of these injuries, and I don't mean funny, haha, I mean funny like curious. Most of the injuries this year to our pitchers are all lats. So it's in this area here. And there's a reason for it. The funny thing with Grayson Rodriguez is he actually adjusted his windup to take pressure off the lat area when he pitched. And then he developed the injury in his elbow. During his rehab, because of his elbow, he seemed to revert back to the way his windup used to be, and that's why he injured his lat again. So it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario for Grayson Rodriguez, and it sucks because we need him. We're expecting big things from him. Zach Eflin, he's got a mild lat strain. We're expecting big things from him, and yet we do not have them. Right now, I could be fine with Zach Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez, and Sagano as our 1, 2, 3 pitchers. Why we use Kate Povich and Dean Kramer or Kyle Gibson as the 4 and 5 pitchers. I'd even be fine if we went to a 6-man rotation right now, just to help alleviate some of the strain that it would put on Grayson Rodriguez. I wouldn't mind that if that happened for the first couple months because we have the ability to do that. Kyle Gibson would also be able to piggyback, if need be, another pitcher who has a short outing, which hopefully that doesn't happen. But we also don't have Albert Suarez. So, we had plan Bs in case one pitcher got injured. We didn't have plan Bs for 3 pitchers getting injured. And that's where a lot of this happens. And, I had some people, on X calling me out and say that, this was writing on the wall. You can't trust Grayson Rodriguez. Grayson Rodriguez, up until 2022, had basically had an injury-free career. From 2022 on, he's had problems with the lat and the shoulder inflammation. But that's about it. He still has pitched. He pitched 20 games his first season and 23 games last year. So he's pitched 43 games in 2 years. Not great because you like to have a lot more. But over those 43 games, he's 20-8. So the Orioles are winning when he pitches. That's a good thing. So is he going to be reliable for us? I don't know yet. He still is young, and there's still plenty of time to straighten things out. It might require a surgery during the offseason that could help fix it. We don't know. But getting him back is more important than, saying he's unreliable and the writing was on the wall. No. They were expecting Grayson Rodriguez to take that next step forward. A lot of people were. We were expecting Dean Kramer at age 29 to take that next step forward. We knew Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells wouldn't be back until June at the earliest. So we figured we could get by with Zach Eflin, Charlie Morton, Sagano, and Dean Kramer. Charlie Morton kind of, I still can't figure it out because, when his pitches, he's got pitches that are touching 95, 96, but they're not even getting hit hard. That's the worst thing that bothers me the most is they're not even getting hit hard. Now, I know he came in the other day and gave up a 3-run home run, but for the most part, most of the contact against him is a weak contact. It's bloop singles here or seeing eye singles there, and then out of frustration, they'll throw some stupid pitch because he's not getting anybody out. And, that's when they capitalize on it. So it brings all the runners in that have already reached. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but, we were expecting, him to at least be able to carry some innings for us. 5, 6 innings and keep us in the game, giving up 3 or 4 runs, not going 3 innings, giving up 8 runs. There were plans in place to actually, basically win the trade deadline because we would have been Kyle Bradish and Tyler Wells back. On top of that, you had Grayson Rodriguez and Zach Eflin, and seeing how well Sagano's pitching, could you imagine the 5 of them healthy in a rotation together? It would be phenomenal. That's what we're banking on. We've got to be able to play good enough to get there so that the second half of the season, we can basically just dominate and go into the postseason with a full head of steam and get hot at the right time and actually have a postseason run. The plans were there. Unfortunately, they blew up in our face. Now it's scramble, scramble, scramble and try and figure out what's going on. But on top of that, you had a team of hitters that were playing lackluster offense and defense. We had a negative 10.8 WAR on defense, or negative 10.8 defensive runs saved. So there were more problems than just pitching. Pitching was the focal point because for 3 years, all we've heard is how bad our pitching staff is. But you got to remember, in those 3 years with the pitching staff so bad, we won 83 games, 101 games, and 92 games. From 2022 to 2024, we had the most wins in the AL. With a pitching staff that was supposed to be horrible. So it's easy to point the finger at Mike Elias and say he should have prepared for this. But when you look at the reality of what's happening, a lot of people keep referring to the 2023 season and then forget there was a 2024 season after. Nobody seems to want to remember that. I'm actually in the process of writing an article about how far the Orioles have fallen from the 2023 season up until now. And it's rather interesting, some of the information that I've come across. It does make you worry and concern, but you also have to take a look at the fact that there have been things going on. Last year, Jordan Westburg getting hurt was a big part of our offense. Grayson Rodriguez going down was a big part of our defense, pitching-wise. Zach Eflin even went on the aisle a little bit after we traded for him. So it wasn't just like it was a clean slate and all of a sudden, we forgot how to play baseball. April ended, and that's 3 consecutive months dating back to last August that the Orioles have had losing records in the month. And that's after we went like a year and a half without having a losing record or getting swept. So essentially, we have a majority of the core of our team still there. Last year was Jordan Westburg going out that affected the offense. This year, it looks like it's Colton Cowser. And Colton Cowser is the loosey-goosey comic guy. And I think that has an effect on things because now there's so much seriousness in the clubhouse. You don't have that guy to kind of break that up. And that's what Colton Cowser was. And when Colton Cowser and Jordan Westburg are together, they feed off each other on that, and it reverberates through the team. So hopefully, Cowser was transferred to the 60-day IL, which probably puts him back closer to the end of May, beginning of June. Hopefully he comes back and things revert and smooth over, but I would love to see him start hanging out on the dugout with the team too. I know he's doing conditioning and keeping himself in shape so he can return quicker, but it'd be nice to have him hang out with the team in the dugout. I think it'd go a long way to helping morale, and I think it'd go a long way to helping, loosen things up. That's what Jordan Westburg and Colton Cowser bring to the team. They bring that looseness that allows them to go out and have fun, remind them that they're playing a game. On that note, we're going to cut things out. I hope you all enjoyed listening. Please don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow us Keep in contact. All episodes are available pretty much wherever a podcast is available. You can also go on YouTube and you can see this beautiful face. Please don't hesitate to leave comments. I always love comments because it lets me get the ability to see what you all are looking for and how we can respond to it. Also, want to give a big shout out to the Baltimore Battery. Want to thank them for everything they do. Without the Baltimore Battery, I would not be here. You all would not even know who I was. So don't forget to head over to thebaltimorebattery.com. There's quite a few interesting articles that have been written over the last couple of weeks I think you all will enjoy. So make sure you delve into that and look at all the different articles that are out by the different writers we have there. I think you're going to have some interesting insight into what's been going on. And maybe you'll look at things a little bit different. Also give a big shout out to Scooters for Rent. If you're ever in the Maryland, Delaware, Eastern Shore area, please, if you need mobility equipment, handicap scooters, manual wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs, beach wheelchairs, or lift recliners, do not hesitate to give Scooters for Rent a call. Tell them Stephen from The Final Strike sent you. You can reach them at 302-280-6203. Till next time, Birdland, I want to wish everybody a great, wonderful May. Let's start things off and start a new month with positive vibes and the Orioles winning and getting back on track. Till next time, Birdland, remember, keep that beer cold and peace out. Thanks for listening.